Good evening, dear students. Till now you have been doing a lot of practice in practical applications of the different softwares, different ways in which we can make online teaching learning process interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ethics which are related in using these different softwares, and what are the important points which we should remember when we are doing online education. तर आतापर्यंत तुम्ही अनेक सॉफ्टवेअर वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारांनी शिकलेला आहात की ऑनलाईन एज्युकेशन आपल्याला इंटरेस्टिंग कसं करता येईल, छान कसं करता येईल, आणखीन परिणामकारक कसं करता येईल. मात्र हे सगळं करत असताना आपल्याला काही गोष्टी खूप महत्त्वाच्या आहेत, नैतिकतेच्या दृष्टीने महत्त्वाच्या आहेत आणि त्या कोणत्या असायला पाहिजेत, आपण कोणकोणत्या गोष्टी लक्षात ठेवल्या पाहिजेत याच्याबद्दल मी आता थोडंसं बोलणार आहे. So after this session, I expect that the student will state the importance and the need of ethics in online education, tell the code of conduct to be followed by the teachers, explain the code of conduct to be followed by the students, and enlist the general considerations which are important while conducting online sessions. So I'll be talking about this in the context of two aspects. One is ethics, म्हणजे नैतिकतेच्या दृष्टीने पण मी बोलणार आहे आणि थोडंसं आपली आचारसंहिता किंवा आपल्या वर्तन नेमकं ह्या ऑनलाईन एज्युकेशन मध्ये कसं असावं, काय काय गोष्टी आपण नियम आपण पाळले पाहिजेत, लक्षात ठेवले पाहिजेत, मुलांनाही शिकवले पाहिजेत, ह्या बाबतीत मी थोडंसं बोलणार आहे. सुरुवात मी करते आहे, एक सिनारिओ देते तुमच्या समोर आणि तो वाचायचा आहे आणि ह्याच्यामध्ये नेमका काय एथिकल इश्यू आहे किंवा कोड ऑफ कॉन्डक्टशी रिलेटेड आहे, कोणती गोष्ट रिलेटेड आहे हे मला तुम्ही सांगायचंय. चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये लिहिलं तरी चालेल, नाहीतर अनम्यूट करून सांगितलं तरी चालेल. Have you all understood the scenario?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
पूर्ण स्लाइड दिसत नाहीये, म्हणजे खालचा आन्सर नाही दिसत आहे.
खालचा भाग दिसत नाहीये?
नाही दिसत आहे.
Now is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. Who will tell me what is the issue basically here? काय समस्या आहे नेमकी इथे किंवा कोणती घटना घडली आहे की ज्याच्याबद्दल आपल्याला विचार करणं आवश्यक आहे? कोण सांगेल?
The teacher should not scold the child, ma'am.
Right. Scold the child immediately. So the issue is of scolding. Is it only scolding the child?
It is a kind of abusing the child in front of all.
Right. So in front of all is the main thing. Okay. Yeah. So that is from the point of view of the teacher. What else? I have posted one more thing over there.
Ma'am, this is Sucharita.
Yes.
The other classmates are kind of bullying the child,
Yes.
which will decrease the confidence level of the child.
Yes. So this is from the point of view of the students, how the teacher should not behave and how the students should also not behave when the online session is going on. It is similar to the regular classroom situation also. You have to imagine that you are in the class and you are not going to individually scold a child, or similarly you are not allow others to bully the students. Okay. All of us have heard about the things that have happened in the just 1 minute. I think it is
माईक बंद करा कोणाचं तरी चालू आहे.
Yeah.
Archana Singh, please put your mic on mute.
Yes.
Madhuri
Now this is
Mokal
the
also. Madhuri Mokal,
yes.
kindly mute your mic.
Yeah. Now this is the second scenario. What is the issue here? What is the issue here? काय येथे समस्या जी सांगितली ती काय आहे? Yes.
Instead of actually working on the homework or the assignment, the child has simply copied, which is cheating, unethical behavior
Yes.
on the part of the child.
Very true, very true. So in the first case, we are talking something related with the code of conduct which needs to be followed by the teachers and by the students. And in the second, we are talking about a important ethical issue where the cheating has been done on the part of the student, right? So both these things need consideration in an online setup when we are going in for online teaching learning. So what is basically ethics? Ethics is a set of moral principles which we need to follow. एक आपला नीती तत्वांचा संच आहे की जी तत्व आपण पाळायला पाहिजे जेव्हा आपण अध्यापन प्रक्रिया ही ऑनलाईन पद्धतीने करणार आहोत. दुसरं काय आहे तर सगळ्यांचं वर्तन कसं असावं. How should be the behavior of the teachers and the students and all those who are involved in the process of this online teaching learning? What is it that they need to follow? How should they behave? That is also what is related with ethics. And in fact, they are like moral principles that govern our behavior in any activity. Just as we have moral principles in our day-to-day life, in our regular life, and even in our day-to-day teaching, in the classroom teaching. Similarly, we need to follow these rules when we are in the online mode also. So, why is it important now? One most important reason is, as I said earlier, as we were talking informally with, I was talking with Rajeshri ma'am, and I said that yes, students know much more than what we know. Now you imagine the students who are going to come in front of you. They would have learned many more things than you have learned. Just as we feel that yes, students are far ahead of us in the use of technology. Similarly, the students who are going to come in front of you are also going to know much more than what you know in the context of technology. And that is why it will become very essential for you to make these students realize the importance of ethics and the importance of their behavior in the online teaching sessions. Because there is very likely or there is a possibility that these children may not what I would say behave appropriately, or I would say that they would misbehave in the session so as to disturb you when you are conducting the session. This is one. The second important reason is to avoid any legal issues. I'm sure that all of you have or know about one of the major issues that occurred in one of the international schools recently, just 3-4 months back, I think, when we started with this online education. And we found, and in that particular school where pictures of the girls were taken, and I mean, the students made use very improper use of technology. And it turned into a big legal issue. So we need to avoid that, and that is why ethical considerations are very important. Setting the rules for the code of conduct for teachers and students is very important. And the main reason is for real learning to take place. Just as Anupama ma'am was saying in the morning, की गेम्स या गेम्ससाठी नाही आहेत आपल्या, त्या गेम्स कशासाठी आहेत, तर काय अध्ययन नेमकं मुलांचं होतंय हे आपल्याला पाहायचं आहे ना. त्याच्यातनं मुलांना आपली एक मध्ये काहीतरी इंटरॅक्टिव्ह करायचं आहे म्हणून मी काहीतरी, आणि त्याचा माझ्या त्या विद्यार्थ्यांच्या शिक्षणाशी काहीच संबंध नाही, असं नकोय आपल्याला. For real learning to occur, for real learning to take place, for making the students attentive and they remain in focus when they are even in the online mode. So that also is very important. And hence we need to design set of rules when we are going in for this online education. You remember the first Zoom meeting we had, and when we decided that we are going to have the online meeting, I told you that how you are going to behave when you are in the online mode, how you have to be on time, how you are not going to disturb the teacher, how you are going to ask questions to the teacher. If you remember, even remember the form which I had sent you while making the analysis, I had asked you, when would you like to ask questions to your teacher? Simple questions, but remember they were related with these ethical considerations in mind. The questions were not asked just because I had to keep on record a needs analysis. There was a purpose behind every question that was asked. So for real learning to take place, we want real learning to take place, because information would be available to the students, as we know that they would be aware of many technological ways of gathering this information. So, but what is the real sense of that information? To make meaning of that information, I think this has been touched upon with you when Rajeshri ma'am has discussed about knowledge and right up to wisdom, how we go from data to wisdom. So you can understand that the real learning is a different thing, and having just information about certain things is a different thing. So in this context, ethical considerations become very important. Online education can be in two ways, basically. One would be the formal board, which we are following now. Like we have a regular timetable, you have sessions of different courses which you have in the program, in the B.Ed program. And online education can also be in the informal board, where a specific topic could be taken, and different people from different areas would interact with you informally through webinars, through seminars, or through chats, and you would get information. But in both these, you need to follow the rules. You need to behave in a particular way. So that is what is important. Now let's discuss first, what are these ethical considerations? From the point of view of teachers, if you look at it, while teaching, they will have to follow certain ethical considerations and certain rules related to their behavior. Then when they're using different resources, this has been touched upon indirectly by many of my staff members, when they have said how to select the resources. So that is one area. And the third is during assessments. For students also, when they are learning and when they are sitting as students, what is important? How they need to behave. Then even when they are using different resources for different activities which have been given to them given to them by the teachers, and even when they are submitting their assessments. So in all these areas, you have to have certain rules in mind and certain things to be considered before you actually act in a particular way. The key ethical issues now. The first and the foremost is plagiarism. What is that? It means, if you remember the example which I had given above, that when you said he has cheated. So what happens over there? You take someone else's work and you say that it is your own. But if you do that, then it is a very, very, what I would say, wrong and immoral thing that you are doing, and it may cause certain penalties to you. That you have to remember. त्याला मराठीमध्ये वाङ्मय चौर्य असं म्हटलेलं आहे. दुसऱ्याचं वाङ्मय, मग ते चित्र असू देत, आवाज असू देत, कुठलं पुस्तक असू देत, त्याच्यामधला काही ऍबस्ट्रॅक्ट असू देत, किंवा कोणते इमेज असू देत, काही जे तुम्ही जर दुसऱ्याचं असेल आणि ते तुम्ही तुमचं म्हणून जर सादर केलं, तर तुम्ही ही मोठी चूक करता आहात हे लक्षात घ्या. आणि तुम्ही जर पकडले गेलात त्याच्यामध्ये, तर त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला त्याची पेनल्टी भरावी लागू शकते, पेनल्टी होऊ शकते. अनदर इम्पॉर्टंट पॉइंट इज कॉपीराईट. मराठीमध्ये त्याला कॉपीराईटच म्हणतात. हे इश्यूज पण खूप महत्वाचे आहेत. हे अधिक महत्वाचे आहेत कारण ह्याला लीगल कॉन्सिक्वेन्सेस आहेत. तुम्हाला जेलमध्ये जाण्यापर्यंत सुद्धा शिक्षा होऊ शकते. कॉपीराईट म्हणजे पुस्तकं, त्याच्यामध्ये सुद्धा सगळ्या गोष्टी येतात. पुस्तकं, त्याच्यानंतर वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारच्या टेस्ट ज्या तयार केलेल्या असतात, त्या चाचण्या ज्या तयार केलेल्या असतात त्याच्यानंतर म्युझिक, पिक्चर्स, स्क्रिप्ट्स, त्याच्यानंतर म्हणजे आर्टिकल्स, त्याच्यानंतर आर्ट मटेरियल, ड्रॉइंग्स, ह्या सगळ्या सिनेमा, ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी आहेत ज्या नेटवरती सुद्धा आपल्याला उपलब्ध असतात. आणि त्यामुळे त्या जर तुम्ही परवानगी न घेता वापरल्यात तर तुम्हाला इथे लीगल प्रॉसिक्युशन पण होऊ शकतं. त्यामुळे हेही खूप महत्वाचं आहे. तुम्ही लक्षात ठेवलं पाहिजे की जर ते कॉपीराइट मध्ये येत असेल तर आपण वापरू शकत नाही परवानगी घेतल्याशिवाय. परवानगी घेतली पाहिजे आणि मगच तुम्ही ती गोष्ट वापरू शकता. याचं एक उदाहरण मला तुम्हाला द्यायला आवडेल. जेव्हा आम्ही पुस्तकं तयार करतो बालभारतीमध्ये आणि अनेक वेगवेगळ्या पोएट्सची किंवा वेगवेगळ्या ऑथर्सच्या लेखनामधनं जेव्हा काही तसंच्या तसं उतरवायचं असतं आपल्याला पुस्तकांमध्ये, कारण लिटरेचर आपण ह्या मुलांपर्यंत देत असतो, तर तेव्हा त्या लेखकांची किंवा त्या कवींची आम्ही लेखी परवानगी घेतलेली असते. म्हणजे बालभारतीने लेखी परवानगी घेतलेली असते की आम्हाला तुमची ही कविता ह्या पुस्तकामध्ये छापायची आहे आणि त्याच्यातनं कमर्शियल काही यूज नाही, पण आम्हाला ती एज्युकेशनल पर्पजसाठी आम्ही ती वापरत आहोत. या सगळ्या कॉपीराईटचा एक स्पेसिफिक फॉर्मॅट असतो आणि ते राईट्स मग तो पोएट जो असतो तो किंवा तो ऑथर जो असतो तो बालभारतीला तो प्रदान करतो आणि मगच बालभारतीमध्ये ती पुस्तकांमध्ये वापरली जाते. तर हे लक्षात घ्या की हे खूप महत्वाची गोष्ट आहे. आणि आपण काय होतं, नेटवरती खूप गोष्टी सहज उपलब्ध आहेत, चित्र खूप सहज उपलब्ध आहेत, तर ती आपण पटकन घेतो, आकर्षक असतात, आवडतात, मुद्दाम करतो अशातला भाग नाहीये. पण हे लक्षात ठेवा की जेव्हा जेव्हा आपण नेटवरनं काही गोष्टी घेणार असू तर आपल्याला ही काळजी घेतली पाहिजे की आपण ती कॉपीराइट अंडर येत नाहीये ना. देन स्टुडंट ऍब्सेंटी, दिस इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द की इथिकल इश्यूज. In the regular classroom mode, if you are absent, we know directly that you are absent. What happens over here in online mode, most of the time, due to different reasons, due to maybe connectivity reasons, due to what I would say, the general norm which is being followed now, which I see on the online mode, is that you keep yourself, your video off, yourself muted. So what you do is you just join and you are not there. This is very wrong on the part of the student. If he or she is not able to join, he or she should not join. Remember, loyal to yourself, and you are being loyal to your teacher also. But first, start remaining loyal to your own self. This is one ethical issue which you have to remember. Then you also have the problem or the issue which you need to consider which is of student substitution. आपल्या ऐवजी कोणातरी दुसऱ्यालाच तिथे बसवायचं. प्रामुख्याने परीक्षांच्या वेळेला आपल्याला आढळतं स्टुडंट्स प्लीज या, आपल्या ऐवजी दुसऱ्या कोणाला तरी परीक्षेला पाठवायचं किंवा आपल्या ऐवजी दुसऱ्या कोणाला तरी बसवायचं. तर हा सगळा प्रकार जो आहे हाही खूप महत्वाचा आहे, नैतिकतेची गोष्ट आहे. आणि जर आपण पकडले गेलो त्याच्यामध्ये तर त्याच्यामधनं लीगल कॉम्प्लिकेशन्स होऊ शकतात. हे कायम सगळ्यांनी लक्षात ठेवा आणि ते आपल्या मनामध्ये कायम जागृत ठेवा आणि आपण हे असं काही करणार नाही, आपल्याकडनं काळजी घेऊ हे निश्चित मनाशी ठरवा. आता हे महत्वाचे विषय आहे म्हणून मग मी आता अध्यापनाच्या दृष्टीने इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ टीचिंग, सो फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्ह्यू ऑफ टीचर, you remember that when you are also going to be teachers in the schools, or you are also going to be teachers when you conduct online sessions now during internship or practice lesson. So what is important? The first and the foremost thing is communicate the objectives, assessment procedures clearly and consistently. So how you are going to, now you may say that yes, for the internship and for practice lessons, why should we communicate? Remember, for internship you are going to take a test in the end. You need to tell your students that we are going to conduct a test on this. What kind of test? Now, fortunately for the students, they would be doing that in the online mode because I don't think immediately in the next month you would be able to go in the schools directly to conduct the assessment in the usual way, which we paper pencil. But you need to tell them what are the objectives of conducting the sessions, those 4 periods which you are going to take, or 5, whatever it is. And then what kind of assessment are you going to do? Be very, very clear with your students and tell it there should be a consistency in what you say and what you do. If there is a change, tell them the change. That due to these reasons, we need to change this. For example, now what happened was even during our sessions, See, we had planned these sessions in a very scientific way, but due to certain reasons we had to adjust, and that was communicated to you with the reason. So remember that if there are any changes, please communicate to the students. The second is set the rules for your sessions along with the students. So decide with the students at the beginning, how are we going to do this session? What kind of question answer session will we have? Will we have in between or at the end? If it is in between, how are we going to allow you to ask the questions? All these rules, simple rules, but if they are done along with the students, students will be bound by the fact that they have participated in making the rules to follow them. So make these rules for the session. The third is, remember that you have to make your presence felt and maintain the control. Sometimes what happens, the students may not participate. The students may not answer. Now in these situations, what kind of change will you bring about in your way of asking questions? What different options will you give to the students? Now all these things you have to consider, and this will come with experience naturally, because there is no 1+1 answer to this problem. Every class will be different. Every type of students will be different. Every subject will be different, because you know that there is a variety in the students. So this will come with experience, yes, but make your presence felt. They should know that you are the one who is in control and not they. Okay, so that is also very important in teaching. What happened now? Then it is always better to ask questions in between or involve the students in between the sessions, so that you know that yes, they are not sleeping and they are not getting bored or tired due to the session. Because remember, you have learned psychology, you must have learned the principles where Gauri ma'am and Roy ma'am must have told you that attention span is very less, especially for the very small children. It is just for 15 minutes maximum. So you need to keep them attentive, and to bring them back, bring their attention back, you need to do certain kinds of things in between when you are conducting the sessions. Then a very important point from the grown-up children's point of view is that you need to present the issue from different perspectives to broaden the outlook. Otherwise, what happens is you present only one side of the issue, and then students remain ignorant about the different aspects, other aspects which are related to this issue. Now take for example this online teaching learning process. Right from day one, we have been saying that yes, we have no option and it is the best way at the moment. But why this particular session was included by Gandhi sir? It was basically to make you realize the other side of it also. Realize your importance as a teacher and as a student, to broaden your perspective. It is not merely equipping your skills, but it is equipping your attitude also. It is the way how you look at this particular online teaching learning process as a whole, as a teacher, as a student, as a person who is going to develop learning material. So remember, even when you're teaching your subjects, any specific content, present it in such a way that a different perspective can be given to the students from different points of view, so that it broadens their outlook. A very important thing which you also need to remember is you are not going to follow any religious, political or social agenda. Remember that, students, very carefully, because again this may have legal implications. No social, political or religious agenda is to be followed when you are, if you might think that it's an online mode, only I will be there with my students. No, it is not the case. You realize that students are going to go home, they are going to share it with their parents, the parents are going to share it with the teachers. And now, why am I telling this? Because you are going to go for your internship lessons and practice lessons in schools, and you are going to go there as a part of Adarsh College. So remember that you are going to stick to your subject. You are going to stick to what you have decided to teach. And that is why the first and the foremost thing which I mentioned was decide your objectives. You're not going to go away or move away from your objectives. Okay, so remember this in mind. Are you all with me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Then the code of conduct in the context of students. The teacher has to behave in a particular way when she is interacting with the students. Take feedback from the students. Try to find out what they have understood, what they have not understood, what needs to be explained again, what needs to be shown again, or what they have understood very, very clearly. So you can have small intervals and breaks in between where you can take this feedback about their learning. Use the platforms with which the students are comfortable in their online teaching. Why did we take a survey of the schools where you are going to go for your lessons? Or why did Bhandare ma'am interact with those heads of the schools to find out what platforms they are using? That was basically to make you comfortable and the students also comfortable when they attend your sessions. So there was a particular reason. So we are trying, and that was the basic reason why we took the big webinar in which all my staff members were involved, where we tried to identify how this internship and practice lessons could be conducted. Also, the other reason was to plan this particular IT training sessions program so that we could introduce you to the different platforms which are being used in the schools and the different kinds of activities which are conducted in the online mode in these schools to equip you better. So use the platforms with which the students will feel comfortable. Even when we started our Zoom sessions, we had taken your opinions, and we found that majority of the students, more than 80% of the students had said that they prefer this Zoom platform. And that is why we went to this Zoom platform, so that everyone would be comfortable when they join the sessions. Then during these sessions, remember, please don't, there is a provision for sending personal messages. Avoid sending personal messages to others. So the teacher should not also send any personal messages to the students during the sessions. So that is the code of conduct in the context of the students with respect to the teacher. Now there are certain rules which are also important from the point of view of the students, some more which talk about that the example which I gave earlier, that check that there is no cyberbullying during the sessions. कुठल्याही एका विद्यार्थ्यावर दादागिरी करणार नाहीत, कुठल्या एखाद्या विद्यार्थ्याला वरती कमेंट्स करणार नाहीत आणि त्याला त्रास होईल असं वर्तन इतर मुलांकडून होणार नाही, याची काळजी पण शिक्षकांनी घेणं खूप आवश्यक असतं. Don't give any personal remarks and always respect your students. Behave with them in a very, very respectful way, even though they may be very young, very small. Now, when you're using the teaching learning material, I have already mentioned the two main issues which could bring in a penalty and legal implications is of the copyright and plagiarism. So when you are using someone's material, when you are using some material from different sources, please cite the reference. Please provide the reference when you are using it. It can be from the textbook, it can be from the net, it can be from some encyclopedias, it could be from dictionaries or whatever, or from the websites, but please give the reference. Another important thing is, if that thing comes under copyright, please obtain legal permission to use the material. People give you permission if it is not of a very high, I would say, otherwise very high or important reason. But preferably use material which is readily available. Obtaining legal permission, this is important if you are going to go in for research further and you are going to cite certain tests which you may be using in the research work. But obtain legal permission for that. In the context of assessment of the students, remember that you will have a 35-minute session. So don't give too many activities. If you give them too many activities, you won't be able to finish your session. So you have to realize that your assessment, in between assessments, should be of a very short duration and of a very, what I would say, focused kind of an activity. Now, can you tell me the activities which you learned in the morning session? Can you give them during the session? Can you give them during the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
If
Yes, ma'am. Like live game.
if the session is of 35 minutes, how much time do you think that game will take?
Ma'am, just 2 to 3 minutes or maximum at the max 5 minutes.
Remember, you will answer one at a time because otherwise I'm not able to understand. Yes.
Ma'am, we can give it for evaluation purpose, that type of exercises.
Right. Right. But the kind of activities which were told yesterday by Kalekar sir, if you remember, reflective kind of activities, he showed it using a video. Similar kind of reflective points you can have in your PowerPoint presentations if it is a live session. Right? If it is in the asynchronous mode, you can use it both in the synchronous and asynchronous mode. But if it is in the synchronous mode for just 35 minutes, do you think these particular games would be very, very useful considering the objective?
It will be more time taking, ma'am.
Yes. That is why I'm saying in the context of time, you need to think what activity am I going to give and how many am I going to give. Okay?
Ma'am, also they are small children.
Yes.
We must also think about them. They are also small children.
And I could see how you had become playful when you were doing those activities. So if that attitude comes up, then the learning, which is related with my second point, that keep them related to students' learning. This part was also emphasized by Anupama madam, that why are you actually conducting that game? The objective of organizing that game should be very, very clear to you. So when you are taking it as an assessment, it could be after the session, yes, or as an assignment, but see what learning are you testing through that particular game or that particular activity. Then check that the student has done the assessment himself or herself. How can you cross-check? How can you cross-check? Can you think of how you can cross-check? Because you are going to give them at home, isn't it?
Ma'am, you can counter question them once they're done.
Don't use the word counter question. What better word can we use?
Assessing them on what they have learned.
How? That is precisely what I'm asking.
Reflection. We can say reflection on that particular content.
Very good. Very good. Yes. Yesterday's session where it was shown that you come to know who has given which answer through that grade book. You remember? Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So that made it very, very clear who had answered. So that is one way. And the other way, as you said, you could take a brush up of that particular topic which you had taught just in a random fashion, and you could identify. I agree that every time it will not be possible to ask all those 60 students, but you know whom to ask and whom not to ask without saying that. Yeah. So that is the way to check whether the student has done it himself. Use a variety in your assessments. You will realize that in these different types of games, students are already playing such games. Followed? So it should not be the case that they feel that it has become a routine kind of a thing and then it becomes monotonous. So that is why variety is required in your assessments. Ask them to draw something, ask them to write something. It is not necessary that you always use these interactive games. So enlist which different activities can you send them for assessment through the classroom which you create for the students. I think my staff is giving you variety of assessments, isn't it? So different kinds of assessments to be completed. So present this in a diagrammatic form, or write a short note on this, or just make a PowerPoint presentation on this. Different kinds of activities which you can think of for the students. Or you give them some figure and then label the parts. Something of this. You can have variety of assessments. Remember, in online mode, assessment should also not be very, very long. And even in multiple choice questions, you can have questions which are based on knowledge level and up to creativity level. Though creativity level cannot be tested to a very great extent, but yes, up to evaluation, you can definitely go even in the multiple choice questions. I hope you remember Bloom's taxonomy taught by Kasturi ma'am last year. Yes? If not, you will have to brush up because you have to develop questions of all these levels, okay? Which I have mentioned it as my next point, that assess using Bloom's taxonomy in focus. Remember that now we are going to use Google form, or now we are going to use Desmos, or now we are going to use only the multiple choice questions. So let it be, majority could be from knowledge and comprehension level, but application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, all these points are very important and need to be developed, and that is where actual learning would take place in the student. Okay, so this is in the context of assessment. Remember that going on online mode doesn't mean we leave all our principles which we have learned for the classroom setting and then we have our entire new set of rules and regulations. No, the item or the rules which we were following are put here in a different and a modified form. Now, does this mean that students don't have to follow any rules? No, they have to follow also a code of conduct. The first is whatever rules and procedures have been set up together as a team, they have to follow that. So remember, that is the first thing. Then also avoid distracting the teacher and breaking the flow of the teacher. Sometimes it could be due to mistake, but I have also seen during these sessions, because I have also attended sessions, I am also attending some of the classroom sessions, and sometimes you, on the PPT, I can see certain lines coming up, certain, you start doing things which you are not supposed to do, which distracts the teacher, which distracts the other students, and which also breaks the continuity or the flow of the session. So avoid doing that. Also avoid distracting other students. And here you also have to remember that you are also not going to follow any religious, social or political agenda when you are in an online session. Do not pass. A very important ethical consideration for you is, I'm not saying it's merely a code of conduct, but an ethical consideration for you. Do not pass on the username and password to unknown persons or uninvited persons. When you are going in for an online session, please don't allow other people, other students or some other persons to join your sessions who are not a part of the group for which the session is being conducted, especially in the online formal teaching learning mode. If it's an open thing, then it's a different issue. But when we are specifically in the formal mode of teaching, remember, you're not going to do that. Then avoid sending personal messages. Just as I said that the teacher should not pass any personal message to the student, unknown to others, okay, unknown to others, because there is a provision in Zoom especially that you send personal messages. So avoid sending any personal messages. And of course, again, remember that you also have to respect all the other students, and please do not pass any personal remarks on the students. So this is what you also need to follow as a student when you are, it's your responsibility when you are a part of that online session. When you are submitting your assignments, remember your responsibility is very, very, very high. Avoid taking tests or submitting assignments on behalf of someone else. Don't do any assignment for somebody else and submit it. You can help the person, but you're not going to do the assignment as a whole. Or you will not ask anybody else to take a test or submit an assignment on your behalf, on someone else's behalf. So avoid both these things and follow these rules so that the online teaching learning process becomes comfortable, easy, and actually a very enjoyable teaching learning process, I will say, for all of us, for the teachers as well as for the students. Besides this, there are certain general considerations like the light, where you sit as a teacher or even as a student, sit in a well lighted place. Preferably there should be no noise around you. sit in an upright position, dress appropriately, participate in the session with according to the rules that have been set up, and make use of your video and audio as per the rules you have set up. So I'm not going to talk much about these because these have been dealt with very nicely by Gande sir when he told you how to prepare the video and how to plan for the video. So he has explained all these points in very much details during that time. So these are the general considerations, but which are also important when you go in for online teaching learning process. These are a few references from where I have collected this information, and thank you for listening to me patiently. And any questions?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, Archana here.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually, I don't have much knowledge about the copyrights. So
Yes.
when we are taking any videos from the YouTube, how will how would I come to know that this has a copyright or no?
It comes automatically when you select the video that this video may come under copyright issues. Even for the pictures, it is definitely there below it. So if such things are there, you cannot take it as it is. And now yesterday Kalekar sir has told you a very nice way of selecting videos from Edpuzzle.
Okay, thanks.
From Edpuzzle, because they have been kept for public use. And another important thing is in net, when you click on the videos, when you click on the different videos there is a option called tools. If you click on that, you will get some options again, and under that you have copyright. So if you click on that, you have different options there for all users, for non-commercial use, for commercial use. All these options come up, and you should take the videos which come under non-commercial use, or where allowed to use with modification, allowed as they are. So all these options come up. You choose from there, then it is easier.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
इमेजेस वरती वॉटरमार्क्स असतात बरेचदा कंपनीचे,
सो अवॉइड
कॉपीराइटचे असतात. येस.
हॅलो.
हॅलो. येस सर.
हा मॅडम, त्या इमेजच्या बाबतीत मी काही बोलू का?
बोला ना, बोला.
ज्या वेळी तुम्हाला इमेज कुठल्या सर्च करायच्या आहेत, तर तिथे आपण जेव्हा गुगलला इमेज सर्च देतो त्यावेळेला टूल्स मध्ये जाऊन तिथे एक ऑप्शन येतो, त्या इमेज सर्च करतात. त्याच्यात त्यांनी काही काही कॅटेगरीज दिलेल्या आहेत. त्याला लेबल फॉर रियूज असं ज्या कॅटेगरी दिलेलं आहे ते कोणते इमेजेस आपण वापरू शकतो.
तेच सांगितलं मी सर. डिफरंट ऑप्शन्स येतात. लेबल्ड फॉर रियूज, लेबल्ड फॉर यूज विथ मॉडिफिकेशन, लेबल्ड असं पण येतं, मॉडिफाय करून पण वापरा असं, लेबल्ड फॉर नॉन कमर्शियल यूज, असे वेगवेगळे ऑप्शन येतात. तर त्याच्यातले घ्यायचे आपण शक्यतोवर.
ऍक्च्युली जर तुम्ही 2-3 इमेजेस घेऊन त्याचं क्रॉप करून त्याचं जर एखादं वेगळं पिक्चर बनवलं तुमचं स्वतःचं, तर मग ते तुम्ही वापरू शकता. ऍक्च्युली नॉट ऍज इट इज. हा, बट नॉट ऍज इट इज.
म्हणजे एखादी इमेज आपण फोटोशॉप मध्ये घेतली, त्याचे कलर चेंज केले किंवा काही त्यातलं एखादा बदललं तर वापरू शकू आपण.
तिथे कॉपीराइट इश्यू असेल तर.
हा बरोबर. जर कॉपीराइट इश्यू असेल तर
इमेज इज सब्जेक्ट टू कॉपीराइट असं क्लिअर येतं, ते घ्यायचं नाही.
बरोबर.
जरी घेतलं एज्युकेशन पर्पज करता ते परमिसिबल आहे आपल्याला शिकवण्याकरता किंवा आपल्या व्हिडिओ पुरता. फक्त मग त्याचा प्रॉपर रेफरन्स मात्र आपण द्यायचा आहे की ती माझी म्हणून द्यायची नाही. आपण वापरूच शकत नाही अशातला भाग नाहीये. पण आपण जर काही सेल आउट करणार असू एखादा व्हिडिओ, त्याच्यातनं काही जर पैसे कमवणार असू आपण फॉर कमर्शियल यूज, then we need to take either permission of that person किंवा मग एज्युकेशनल पर्पज करता वापरू शकतो. त्याला फेअर यूज असं नाव आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये कन्सेप्ट आहे ती. आणि अंडर दॅट फेअर यूज फक्त आपण त्याचा व्यवस्थित प्रॉपर रेफरन्स दिला पाहिजे. इमेज जेव्हा वापरतो आपण तेव्हा त्या इमेजला स्पेसिफिक रेफरन्स नसतो इमेजचा म्हणून. ती इमेज कुठल्या तरी एका डॉक्युमेंट मध्ये आलेली असते आणि फक्त ती इमेज आपल्याला गुगल इमेज वरती दिसते आपल्याला इमेज फॉर्म मध्ये. आपण जर त्या इमेजवर क्लिक केलं आणि ओरिजिनल मध्ये गेलो तर डॉक्युमेंट आपल्या समोर एखादं ओपन होतं आणि त्या डॉक्युमेंट मध्ये कुठेतरी ती इमेज असते. त्यामुळे त्या होल डॉक्युमेंटचा सुद्धा आपल्याला रेफरन्स द्यायला लागतो.
म्हणून तर इट इज ऑलवेज बेटर टू सिलेक्ट पिक्चर्स विच डोंट कम अंडर सच इश्यू. कारण परमिशन घेणं आणि हे फार मोठी प्रोसेस आहे.
Ma'am, may I add one more thing, please, ma'am? This is related, I don't know whether it comes under ethics, but this is related which the students have a responsibility. When you are sending your images for assessment, whether it's on Google Classroom or you should make sure that your images are clear. When you're taking photographs and sending it to the teacher. Otherwise, if it is not sent clearly, it's very difficult for the teacher to assess. So this is a responsibility that lies on the students to make sure, cross-check if when you are sending your images, is it in landscape or portrait, will the teacher be able to read it properly? That you must, sometimes it's so blurred that we cannot, you also as teachers, you will have difficulty. So that is a responsibility of the students to make sure that they take the pictures properly, images properly before giving it, sending it for assessments. Cross check it before you upload it.
We can say that is the code of conduct which has to be followed
By students.
Yes, by students for assessments purpose.